a mutation occurs in a gene that allows us to do something that chimpanzees could never do, or a common ancestor of chimpanzees could never do. Maybe we can digest a new food. So it occurs in one person. And that thing spreads to all people in the world because it's a great new mutation. Now we can eat bananas without hiccuping, or we can tolerate this mushroom that would have killed an ape ancestor, but now we can eat it and detoxify it, something like that. And that thing can spread to all people. But so what? That thing, it's like, Down syndrome is.
Yeah.
That is the copying of a little teeny piece of one of the smallest chromosomes and duplicating it. And it's almost fatal.
It's a relatively minor mutation.
Relatively minor mutation, and is barely survivable. Anything worse than that, you can't survive. So when you're talking about changing gene copy numbers, that's usually really bad. Or if you're talking about adding a new gene when one didn't exist before, you have all these biochemical pathways that are creating things in your body. Creating a molecule and then removing that molecule because it might be very toxic. A lot of the things that we produce in our bodies are incredibly toxic,
really?
And we change them right away to make them non-toxic. So if you add a new biochemical pathway, you might be wreaking havoc with biochemistry. So all these other things have to change. The thing that affects the pH of the cell, or the thing that affects the import and export of this other something or other. You can't just add a gene. And that's what kills evolutionary theory. Biology is really complicated. Say it this way. If life were simple, evolution might be able to explain it. Maybe. Because evolution, at random, might be able to figure out some really simple changes. But the more complex life is, the less probable it is for evolution to explain it.
It's almost like it gets exponentially more difficult.
Yes.
Because now you've got all these relationships between, it's like the network effect when you're talking about business or something. The more lines of communication that you have and the more relationships that you have, the more complicated things get and
the more delicately balanced your entire structure is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're talking about the cell's like a factory that can also reproduce itself in 20 minutes. That is a delicate dance that can't be manipulated without killing the whole system. There's so many parts that have to come together. And you're going to throw a monkey wrench into that? A brand new gene that's never been seen before that does something new and opens up a new biochemical pathway? No. It's almost every change like that is going to be lethal to the cell. And so the evolutionists have to explain the rise of thousands of new genetic factors. Genes being regulated up, regulating down, brand new genes appearing out of nowhere, genes disappearing, while keeping the organism alive. And that's the challenge. The more complex life is, the less evolution can explain it. And all we know from biology is life is really complex.
Right.
Have you studied biology?
I mean, high school.
High school. Do you remember how hard it was?
Yeah, it was a lot. I remember lots of Punnett squares, which are, a really idealized representation of genetics.
Do you remember all the names you had to learn?
I don't remember them now.
Okay. But there were hundreds, if not thousands. And the more you study biology, the more names you have to learn, the more things that happen, the more processes, the more cellular diagrams, the more parts. We've got names for every single part, every subpart, and every variation of every part in biology, and it keeps on going because life is so complicated.
Well, I remember, now that I'm thinking about it, high school biology, we learned photosynthesis. There was even a little song and a jingle that explained photosynthesis. It's like 7 or 8 steps. And I think it was you.
Snorting.
Well, I think it was you who you showed me a poster showing what photosynthesis actually looks like in as much detail as we know how to describe it.
Yeah.
And it is the craziest diagram I've ever seen.
I've had PhD level courses in nothing but photosynthesis and marine algae. And I learned things I never knew before. And all the other times I studied photosynthesis throughout college and my graduate. I mean, it just keeps on going. It's incredibly complicated. Actually, the funniest thing is the earliest life forms that evolutionists believe were around were blue-green algae.
Yeah.
Photosynthetic organisms. Photosynthesis is the most improbable set of chemical reactions imaginable. I mean, those biomolecules that detect light are destroyed by light. That's why like light bleaches fabrics and posters and things. The reds disappear over time. Light destroys molecules, especially ultraviolet light. I mean, it's like that little molecule is getting hit. It's like a butterfly being hit by a bowling ball.
Just
boom, it would waste it. And so what happens is the butterfly touches the bowling ball and slows it down a little bit. And then another one touches it, and it slows it down through a whole series of reactions. And at the end, the photon is still strong enough to rip a water molecule in half. And that's where we get oxygen.
Right, that's okay.
So the whole system is incredibly complicated with all these biomolecules. This amazing dance of all these little protein machines take a little bit of energy out of the thing, and there's still a lot of energy left. You want to change that? You want to put a mutation on that? You want to build that up from nothing? Good luck, Mr. Evolutionist. It's not going to happen. So going back to the chimpanzee human question here, when we add things to complicated systems, we overcomplicate them and usually break them. That's their problem, not ours. Humans and chimpanzees are built from scratch by God, and it's beautiful. And yeah, we have similarities. Okay. But we're too complicated for them to explain. There's too many differences for them to explain.
So for our viewers who want to learn more about this topic and about other topics, I know you've written a book that gets into a whole lot of different things. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, and I'm very happy to introduce people who haven't seen it yet. Biblical Biology 101. This is my life I poured into this. So all these years of being a Christian and being a scientist, I wanted to write from, a 10,000-foot view, an overview of life, because life is amazing and beautiful and wonderful. But a lot of people don't like biology. So
complicated.
It is complicated, but I try to make it fun. And I tried to not use too many big words. And I broke the book up into 3 main sections. The first one is the grand thing we call life. What is life? Does natural selection really work? How do mutations affect things? I talked about the evolutionary model and then the biblical model, trying to take the evolutionary model that everybody knows and replace it with a biblical understanding of living things. In the middle section, I went through all the diversity of life on Earth. So from wildebeests and antelopes to the slimiest little squishy thing living in the mud in the bottom of the ocean, which honestly is more interesting than the antelopes because those things are weird.
Oh, yeah.
And most life actually is small and squishy and lives in mud, and they do fascinating things. And so I'm a biologist exulting in God's creation, and that's how I approach this. And it was just a lot of fun. The third section, though, how life works. And I go through some of the most important things that all living things have to do and how complicated those things are, like protein synthesis and copying DNA and photosynthesis, which we talked about earlier, and things like that. And it's just me rejoicing in the God of creation and trying to explain his creation to people who want to read it.
Well, can I tell you my favorite fact that I learned from this book?
What is that?
It actually answers a question that comes up a lot, which is, hey, when did diseases and bacteria and viruses especially come about? Are those a post-fall or a pre-fall thing? Yeah. It was when you talk about in that book how if all the viruses in the world died, life would be great for about 24 hours, and then everything else would die.
Because I picked that up from an evolutionist who said that, yes.
Yeah, which is just fascinating.
Because most viruses are beneficial.
Yeah.
Almost all viruses are good. And the viruses that are in our gut control the bacterial population in our gut so they don't eat us. They actually control not just the amount of bacteria, but the species of bacteria. The viruses are there. They're engineered to keep us alive. It's only some viruses have escaped their initial created mode and now have gotten dangerous, pathogenic, and things like that. Only a few. Most viruses are great. And people don't know that. They're scared of viruses. No, be happy that viruses exist.
Well, as you can see, Rob and I could talk about this for hours and hours, like we sometimes do. But if you want to get a copy of this, check out the link in the description. Dr. Carter, thank you so much.